Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast today. Today's a really special episode because I am here with Lindsay Kimura. She is a conscious soul guide, and we had done a podcast a few months ago, and her episode is beautiful. It's so illuminating, and she shares so much of her self, and it's really special. So she's here today interviewing me, and I'm going to be sharing my story. And I'm just so grateful to be here with you today, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for this opportunity to be here with you and to get to know you and allow everyone who's listening to hear your story, because I think it's so special. And one thing that really came up during my interview is that I wanted to get to know more of you, because I felt like we were connecting on this wavelength that is very special and rare, where we were telepathically communicating and verbally communicating and just in flow. And you're such a gem. And in this wellness healing world, I feel that finding true gems is just really, really, it should be treasured. And so I'm excited for people to get to know you and to work with you and just hear your story.
Thank you, Lindsay. I really feel the same about you. And I felt that when we were doing our interview as well. I just feel like we're kindred spirits. And so you are the perfect person to be here with today. And I'm so happy you're interviewing me.
Oh, thank you.
It's my first podcast.
Yes. Well, take your seat and we'll get started. Pretty much, I wanted to just hear a little bit about your childhood background and young adult background, just giving us a little overview of who you are, where you come from.
Sure. I was born in Korea, and my dad just recently told me that when I was 6 months old, I had known about this before, but I thought the story was a little different. He told me when I was 6 months old that I was found in the streets of Daegu, and that I was brought to an orphanage, which is where I lived for the first year and a half of my life. And then I was adopted and came to the United States, and I was raised in a Caucasian family and born in the Midwest. So I grew up in Michigan. And when I came here, it was at a time when they didn't have the stewardesses bring you, or the person didn't go to get you, the parents. You just flew over with the stewardesses. So I flew over on the plane, and when I arrived, I had a number pinned on me, and that's how the adoption agency found all the babies and connected them with their families.
Wow. And do you have sharp memories of this, or is it more just from stories?
You know, I don't have really any memories of this, and people would often ask me, "Oh, I've been thinking about adopting, what was that experience like for you, or how did you feel about that?" And I often say, and I've always felt this, that I am very blessed. From a very young age, I just kind of knew that I had the angels on my shoulders and that I was being guided, because how else would a baby find their way from the streets in Korea to going to an orphanage in Seoul, Korea, and then being reunited or being united with a family. So I always felt really blessed. I grew up in a home with a brother who was also adopted, and he had very different feelings about it. I think he was always ashamed and wanting to find his family. And I just sort of grew up feeling like I had been guided, and I didn't have that deep need to find my family because it wasn't really an option. I was kind of brought to an orphanage because I was found in the street. So it wasn't an option to be, find a family. And in a way, I also think that was a blessing.
Yes, it feels like your wings were developed early, just your flight and your trust.
Yeah, I definitely think the trust, that is something that has been weaved throughout my entire story. I had a bit of a turbulent background. Things were not always easy. There were definitely a lot of challenges. I was in an emotionally challenging a household. There was lots of dysfunction. There were a lot of times when I didn't feel really safe. I definitely didn't feel seen and heard. And so because of those things, I developed a lot of trust because somehow I was always guided. Even being in that very chaotic household, I was always guided to what I needed, how to be safe, how to be loved. So somehow, yeah, that's been weaved throughout my entire story.
Wow. And who would you say is your internal guidance system, or that place that you went to for guidance?
I've always just had this knowing. I've always had sort of a knowing. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that I've always done the right thing, because I've done the wrong thing a million times and I've said the wrong thing and all of it. If you name it, I've done it. But but I've always had some kind of knowing of who to go to, what the next step could be, how to get help. Like I always sort of knew, like I knew I was being led, or I would get the message, or, see the call and I would follow it. So looking back, as I kind of look back, I see how all the pieces were really connected and it all happened the way that it was supposed to. When I was in it, yes, I did a million of the wrong things, but I always knew, I had a knowing of how to be safe somehow in whatever situation I was in. And I think that's also where I developed my intuition, or it could have been a gift that was given to me, because that it's also hypervigilance. I think kids that grow up in households that are a little bit more dysfunctional and maybe don't feel as safe, you definitely develop hypervigilance. So I think I had all of those things going for me, which were a great help.
Wow. Yes. It seems like you really sense the subtle currents, things that aren't just right in front of you, or going to others for guidance, like experts or other people, but it's more your inner sense, which, intuition is a perfect word.
Yeah, I was always really good at reading energy. That's just been something supernatural. So that undercurrent. And with my job as a hairstylist, I think that has always been one of the most helpful tools that I've always had. And so, yeah, it's that knowing, but that knowing somehow always led me to the right person or the right place, or to kind of know where to go, or the right thing. So that's kind of, I had that internal guidance system to always find the right role model, or, somehow I just knew what to do next.
Yes, that's incredible. And I think that having that skill of guidance by your intuition is very vital nowadays, where we are in this time of knowledge, and we're seeing the illusions dissolve, the disillusion, and that is the sense, the guidance system that we need. And I'm just so glad you're able to yourself have that and anchor in it, and then allow others to also be guided with that knowledge and wisdom, simply by teaching or being, I always think of you, Shannon, as a leader by example. So
thank you.
Yeah. And I wanted to know how you got on the path of hair, because I know you've been a hairstylist for over 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. And what guided you to that path?
So when I was 17, right after I graduated from high school, I left home, and I was very lost, but needed to figure things out. And my boyfriend at the time, who I was dating, introduced me to his mom, and their family owns a group of salons called Heidi Christine's in Ada, Michigan. And she met me and was like, I want to know your story. She fell in love with me. She's like, we're here for you, and we're going to help you, because you're too young to be in the world without guidance. And she was right. I was only 17. So they quickly became a second family to me and a mentor. Their family was a real role model for me in the way of mentorship and also seeing how another family could be together and be healthy in a way that made me feel seen and heard for who I could be. So that felt really great to me. And they owned salons, and she offered me an apprenticeship in the salon and thought I would be a great hairdresser. And to be honest, I'd never thought about it before, but I didn't have a lot of direction. And I thought it was a good idea. You know, I could have a career. So I did it. I did a 2-year apprenticeship in their salon, and it was just such a gift. It was such a beautiful gift. Her daughter, Heidi, who they were partners at the time. Now the whole family's taken over and they're partnered. Her daughter, Heidi, was my mentor in hair, and, you know, their family was my mentors in life. And that's how I started my career, was by doing an apprenticeship and getting licensed in Michigan. And then I worked for, I think it was 2 years for Matrix. They're a hair care company, and I did education for them. And I went all around the United States doing a lot of hair shows. I was really young at the time, but I had, as you know, you had just said, that sense of knowing and energy and intuition. So I had a good sense of how to direct things. So even though I didn't really know how to do hair as well myself, I knew how to put things together and direct things, and I was really good at speaking on stage. So that was a really beautiful education in life and, you know, travel and so many wonderful things with hair for me and connecting with people. And then I moved to LA, and I started working at a salon in LA. It's not there anymore, but it was called Fred Siegel, which at the time was a very high profile salon. And I started my career there as an assistant, and then got a chair on the floor. Had a big article in Allure magazine as a colorist, and that really built my entire business. I still have a lot of those clients from 15 years ago.
Wow. Wow, Shannon, that's incredible. And one thing that really stood out to me is the idea of apprenticeship, and how that's how many paths of healers or people learned back in the old times, before we had this set mind to, okay, do your high school, do your college, do your university, your master's, your PhD, and go on this career track where you could really get hands-on experience and just be working one-on-one with someone and having them pass down the lineage. And working with your hands is another thing that came to mind, is creating art with the hands. It's a true craft and skill, and I think it's really special. And I didn't know you did all of the teaching, but it seems like the teaching and the speaking and the guidance you were giving to not only people around the world with your hair stuff, but also with your individual one-on-one clients is just so valuable. And whatever you're doing, whether it's hair or any type of guidance or consulting, it's the same thing, right? Like, not the same thing, but can you talk a little bit about how the skills from what you've done and your really, really solid background have transferred or translated into what you do now, which I'm excited to hear about as well.
Yeah, I love that question. So what you were saying earlier really resonates with me as far as like the lineage and the apprenticeship and the past life. I did work with an amazing energy healer. His name is Jeffrey Allen. I worked with him doing one-on-one sessions for 8 years, and he taught me so much about energy. And also he said that he had seen me in many past lives. And he had seen me in many past lives in Egypt and working as a healer. So it just really resonated when you said that to me. So many of the things blueprint from doing hair onto now being a certified hypnotherapist. One of them is that ability to connect and, you know, build rapport and build trust have clear communication, really reading the energetics, putting things together quickly, and then also knowing out of my toolbox what technique is going to be appropriate for this goal or issue that they're working on. And, because every person, it's a custom made protocol. So, I'm putting together based on what they're coming to me with and what they'd like to heal. And it's the same way with hair. Every color formula is custom made. Every interaction with somebody, you are putting together so many pieces from the second they sit down, that connection, that trust, kind of reading their body language, reading the energetics of who they are and what's happening, but also listening to what they're saying and then saying, like, are they the same? What's happening? So asking really clear questions and then reiterating. There's a lot of reiteration. So what I hear you saying is, okay, so just to reiterate what exactly we're going to do, there's a lot of images. So a lot of times with clients, when I do their hair, I'll ask them for pictures. And that vision and that image is so valuable. And similar with hypnotherapy, because the subconscious works through images and feelings. So there's a lot of, holding the vision high. I really want to hold that image of seeing the person completely healed. And when I do hair, I hold the image of seeing the finished product. So it's really, working on custom made formulas or protocols to build a creation and hold a vision high that isn't yet there, but you're seeing it in the quantum field. So it really is there. You're just meeting it.
Yes. Oh my God, Shannon, this is so exciting. I was drawing the parallel between art and healing and how beauty is the underlying element, because beauty is harmony and perfect geometric pattern and resonance that's in alignment with nature. And really, when you're styling hair or when you're guiding somebody to inner wholeness or perhaps healing making whole as a healer, it seems like one and the same. There's not really much of a difference. You're just making whole, you're making art. It's really art and creation.
Yeah. It is like art, because you see the vision and then you work toward creating it. So it's really, it's bringing those two things into harmony. That's so beautiful. It's so true.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you what your definition or view of healing is and what you think about, are people their own healers, or are you a guide to their healing? How do you feel about
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's such a big question. I think it's there's so many ways, and the way that I work is that I'm really guiding people to that creative intelligence inside of themselves, so that it's a collaboration. They're doing the work and they're the ones having the discovery. I'm kind of pointing them in the right direction. So it's like I'm going in the house with them and then I'm kind of bringing them in the room, and they're the ones rearranging the furniture, maybe getting a new perspective, or, going into a different room. So yeah, I definitely feel there are multiple ways. For myself, I'll speak for myself. I have worked with people who are healers, and I do feel that they have, like, quote unquote, given me a healing that I couldn't really explain. And I didn't even question it. I was just so grateful. And I've also worked with people that have guided me into giving me skills or allowing me to see things. And that has been also powerful, because the integration is so different when you have that empowering piece of yourself that knows that you saw it for yourself. It wasn't somebody just telling you this, and this, because then there's you don't know really how to apply action to it. So with the type of work I do, I'm able to use all my skills of reading energy, engaging my intuition, having that deep connection where I'm really allowing them to feel safe and seen and heard, but then also empowering them to have their own experience. It's that collaboration part where I'm not doing it for you. I'm guiding you to show you how you can do this yourself. And I think that also gives people a practice that they can return to. It gives them the confidence to know and to trust themselves and to remember that they do have the answers, and being able to see them through this guided process allows them to have a place that they can return to on their own because they know it's safe. They've been there before.
Yes, that's so beautiful, Shannon. I pictured you in a room with someone and beautiful crystals and furniture.
Oh, I love that vision. Let's hold that vision high.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and one thing that struck me when we spoke on my interview is that you really are, the term master manifester came into my mind for you, because I feel like you're somebody who sees a vision and you make it happen. And I've seen a lot of visions, but not the connection between the reality. And so can you speak a little bit about, I guess, your way or what you feel manifestation is? Maybe share some secrets to manifestation, because I do really see you as a master manifester.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. What a huge compliment. So it's just always been really natural to me. And I think it goes back to that guidance. And, I was saying, I think when I came here as a little baby with a number pinned on me, that I always had a knowing. I, got my citizenship when I was 5. I became an American citizen. And I was never embarrassed about being adopted. I was always proud of it because I knew I was different, but also I knew I was guided. I just sort of had that image of like the angels, and like I knew that I was being guided in that. So I guess that would be my spirit guides. And somehow I don't have this conversation where we're talking, but somehow they're just getting the information to me. So that would definitely be one part of it, is that inner trust and just knowing that I'm being guided, and knowing that the messages aren't always coming like a whisper in my ear, which for some people they are. Some people are clairaudient, or I think for me, I just somehow have this knowing. So I'll see a vision, and then I'll have a knowing of what steps to get there. Like all of a sudden somebody will pop into my mind and I'm like, oh, definitely call that person, or put these people together, or do this, or if you go there and meet this person. Like somehow it all, and I don't see it all. I'll probably just see like one thing and then the next thing start coming in. But with this new business, I actually saw probably 10 of the pieces in advance and kind of had the idea of how to put them together. So it's definitely vision, but it's not without work. But one of the ways that I work is that if I'm doing too much work, quote unquote, too much work, then I stop and I really think about what I'm doing, because I know that there's definitely a way to work with the energy. And I don't think that going is the most productive. For me, I'll be really productive at the time when the energy is really bright for being productive. And then I rest when I'm tired, because I know that wave is going to come again. And I've always worked like that. So somehow I have the appearance of not doing much, but there's so much that's being created and being happening. And I think that kind of goes back to that trust and that intuition of just following energy, as opposed to sort of following the rules of the physical world all the time.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. And when you were saying you came down with the number and you have the angels around you, before you even said angels, I feel like you're such an earth angel, which is like the embodied essence of angels and human. And angels are such subtle beings that you're not going to hear voices and very loud. It's just the essence, the angelic essence, because it's of such pure light. And so It's embodied. It's already integrated.
Wow. You're so beautiful. Thank you, Lindsay.
Of course. And I think you make a great point about action and knowing that that's the physical part, right? You have to take action, but then having the balance of looking at the cycles of nature and of energy and knowing when to apply effort and when to rest, and that things don't have to be a struggle, right? They don't have to be hard. Work doesn't necessarily equate to being tired or struggling or surviving, but it can still be in thriving. So
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I definitely kind of follow that path of a lot of what gets created. It starts in the imagination, and with those pictures and those feelings and those visions, that's probably where I do 50 to 60% of my work. And then I follow the energy and apply the action when it's time.
so beautiful. It's really beginning with spirit and connecting with matter. And I think just we've grown up in a world, not everyone, but a lot, where it's been a lot about just connecting with matter or what's been done before, because conventionally that's what everyone's doing. So I just really appreciate that you are guided by spirit. It's
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you get it so easily.
I understand, Shannon. So I want to ask about your work now. So just explaining, and feel free to say your transition as well, to talk about your transition from Heron to being a certified hypnotherapist, or you can just spend more time speaking on what you do now. But I'd love to hear a little about the transition, because I know a lot of people are transitioning their roles as this earthly paradigm is changing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to lose your skills or have to start over. So just share.
Yeah. So I've been, for the past 2.5 years, I spent 2 of the past 2.5 years getting certified as a hypnotherapist at the Hypnotherapy Academy of America in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I've been traveling back and forth, and that's a 500-hour in-person program. It's one of the best educations in the world, as far as I'm concerned. The directors are so gifted and talented and amazing teachers. So I'm blessed to have such a great education and be a part of a community of hypnotherapists where we can really share ideas and help each other. So that's a huge, huge blessing. And I had the foresight to start that. Actually, my boyfriend wanted me to start a year later. He thought I should wait, and I kept saying, no, it has to be now. And thank God I did, because I finished right when COVID happened. So I had already kind of had this idea for myself. And, a lot of people ask, why am I interested in hypnotherapy? I had a teacher that I worked with. I also did a podcast with her. Her name is Cynthia Morgan, and she has been a mentor in this space for me. She's such a gifted healer and spiritual teacher. And when I was 30, I went through divorce. It was a major life crisis for me. And I was led to her through a close friend, and we did a lot of work together. And at that time, it really shifted my path of consciousness. It really shifted me onto a different track. And I was able to start to see how my childhood patterns and my unhealed childhood wounds were replaying themselves in my life now. And so that was the beginning. That really catalyzed a huge period of personal growth for me. So I was always grateful to Cynthia and to that work. And it just had such an impact on me. Looking back, it wasn't the only work that I had done, but it was the one that really catalyzed the path that the rest of my life followed. So it was so important for me. And then I was trying to figure out, I knew I wanted to do something in the spiritual realm. I didn't know exactly what it was. I was asking the question out loud. So that's another way that I manifest. Sometimes I'll just ask the question out loud. And somebody came in to me as a client to do her hair. I'd never met her. She was referred by somebody that I don't even know. And her name is Beverly Morse, and Dr. Beverly Morse, and she has a program called Integrative Body Psychotherapy. And she's a very, very world-renowned, gifted healer and psychotherapist in the intimacy world and somatic psychotherapy. So I did a 2-year personal growth program there, and I was in the same group of people with 12 people for 2 years, and we would meet every weekend. So over those 2 years, we knew each other's, deepest stories, how we came into this world, how we grew up. And I was really able to see how we're all doing the same thing. We're just doing it with different characters and a different movie projector and a different sort of storyline, but we're all doing the same thing. And we all, we have that sort of connection at that level. That was really, really valuable for me. And then it came to me that I wanted to do hypnotherapy because it's such a perfect platform for me to use all the gifts that I've been learning while I've been doing hair for the past 20 years. I mean, that's just been such a huge education for me, but also throughout my entire lifetime and all the lifetimes before, of intuition, of connection, and really being able to just put things together really quickly, being able to see patterns, see some of the things around it and put it together really quickly. But instead of me telling people, I'm able to guide them to tell themselves.
Wow, it's such an art, Shannon. And it's so impressive that you've been through so much earthly life experience, and it's challenging in my eyes, just with growing up and even having a divorce. Like, I didn't know that about you, and really heavy, what could feel really heavy for someone. I feel like you have such a lightness about you, and you are so young and youthful and harmonious and graceful and beautiful that it really doesn't look like you're struggling, or I can't feel that about you. It seems like you have such a grace and handle it. And I think that's true mark of a master.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, it's beautiful because I've done so much work on myself that I'm blessed to be able to look back and say, wow, like I'm a miracle. I really got through that because it was challenging. I would say that my childhood and my young adult life was definitely the hardest part of my life. But I remember when I was going through the divorce, and one of my clients, and so I say this because doing hair has just been so healing for me. As much as I've been healing others, they've also been healing me, because whatever I was working on or would have an issue with or needed to hear, somebody always comes in and says that thing to you. And I remember when I was having this very difficult transition, one of my clients, who was an older woman, she was probably in her 60s, and I just told her, what I was working on and that I was working on myself. And she said, it's such a gift to do this now, because now you get to set up the second half of your life the way that you want to live it, and you don't have to repeat all of the stuff that happened in the first half. And I never forgot that. It was so powerful to hear. And it really reminded me of why I was on this quest for growth. It's because I wanted to be who I've become. Like, I've really built this person. And, it's funny because I think sometimes people meet me and they think, oh, she looks so put together and she's so smart and she's making it look easy. She's probably just, and the truth is that I've worked really hard to be this person. It hasn't always been easy. And I definitely did not come from a put together household. We grew up in a trailer park. We didn't have a lot of money, and we struggled financially and emotionally. And so I really feel like I could have gone in two directions, and I chose this one. And so I'm very grateful. I was able to lead myself into a direction that really has allowed me to become who I am and who I want to be. And so, if it's possible for me, it's possible for anybody. Like I really built myself into this person. So I'm proud of myself when I look back. I feel like it is a miracle to come this far. And I'm grateful for the strength and the resilience and all of the people and things, my spirit guides, everybody that helped lead me here.
Yes, Shannon, you're such an example of truly blooming and blossoming into who you are as a soul. And I don't always see that able to happen because of circumstances, and because it's really hard to choose differently than the family chose or that others chose for you, and to break free from that and to separate yourself, to be able to blossom and bloom and truly express your inner soul through your work and through your world. And so I just, hearing your story makes me just very, very, what's the word? Proud, but also the word miracle comes to mind, because I see and hear more of people going the other way versus breaking through into full soul expression. And you've really done that. So
finally, I'm a late bloomer.
What do you mean late bloomer? You're so young.
I mean, thank you.
Yeah. And true, I think that every ounce and every iota of work you put in really does have an effect. It's like sowing the seeds of silk or gold, where that hard work does take decades. It's not something you do overnight. And I think that because you went through all of the years and even lifetimes to be here now, it's truly remarkable.
Yeah, I feel blessed to be able to soak this time in, and also to be able to lead other people and to help other people that are struggling with, some of these things that I've been able to work through and that I'm still working on. It's always a work in progress. But I definitely feel where I'm in a position where I feel really healthy and really, lucky to be able to guide other people to finding this, connection and being able to find that medicine inside of themselves. Lindsay and I did a soul session together. Is that what you got? Conscious soul session?
Yes,
together.
Conscious soul
clarity, and you're so amazing to work with. I mean, you're just so connected. You're really tuned in. I felt like it was such a deep session because you're really seeing things on so many different dimensions and all in the quantum field. And it was just a really, really beautiful session that offered me a lot of help and guidance. So if anybody is, wondering what Lindsay does, she's really amazing teacher and healer as well.
Thank you, Shannon. And I guess maybe my final question, I could ask you questions all day, but I would say, what are your key, maybe values, or I don't know if value is the right word, but your core essences that have been common threads throughout your life, like whether they're words or ways of being and just something, I guess, that can also uplift others?
Yeah, I've always been positive. Somehow, through all of the difficulties and the hardships and the dark times, I've always been positive and somehow had kind of a lightness about me. Which is a kind of very much a dichotomy of sort of the serious depth that I have. So definitely somehow staying positive. And I think also looking back over the course of my life and seeing how everything is connected and really being reminded of that silver lining in every situation. has also helped me to stay positive and really move forward. And also just that curiosity for growth, and really that there's something inside of me that's just, I'd like to make things better. That's sort of one of my whys is I think it's, making things better. And that's something I wanted to do in my childhood. If I could just make everything better and everybody around me better, then my life could be better. So, I think that's kind of came through that way, but it's still something that I find myself doing. I'll organize and then reorganize, or I'll do this and then redo that, because I want it to be better, and I want to help people be better and to help them have better lives. And so that's another way. Personal growth has just always been such a deep part of who I am. And I think that's really led me to everything, is that quest for personal growth and just wanting to be happy and experience joy and be vibrant and experience everything that I can in this lifetime, because it goes fast, and who knows what lifetime I'll be in next,
Yes. Well, Shannon, thank you so much for sharing yourself and your gifts and beauty and all that you have to offer with as many people as you touch.
Thank you, Lindsay. I feel the same way about you. You're helping so many people and guiding so many people into, seeing so many beautiful things about themselves and learning about themselves. And I'm so grateful that if anybody did the interview with me, it was you. You're just the perfect person to be here with today.